Hey y'all, again, it's Vanya, and I really am excited about today's topic. I'm really just going to kind of dive right in. So I'm sorry, I apologize, I amends, and of course, genealogy. So I am going to first start by saying I do apologize. I know that the rustling of the papers can be a distraction, but that's my script. It's my content. If I don't have it, I will go off topic. I will go off the rails. And since I am a talker, I will ramble and I want to try and stay on task. So thank you in advance for bearing with me. And I am going to straight up just be honest, right? I am super nervous about this one. Why am I nervous? Because it's a little lengthy, because I didn't want to break it up into segments. I wanted it all to be together. And I was talking to my husband about it, my best friend, right? And I said, I am so scared. I'm so worried. I'm gonna sound stupid. People are gonna get bored. It's just not gonna work. And he's like, see, you're Vanya. And I said, well, I'm gonna make mistakes and I'm gonna sound silly and everything. And he said, you know what? Yeah, you are gonna make mistakes. You're new at it. You're still learning how to get the feel of everything. He said, so you know what? Go make your mistakes, do what you're gonna do, but but just you answered all your questions, so go. And so here I am. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, back to today's topic. So I'm sorry, I apologize, I amends, and genealogy. So in my alcoholism and my active addiction, I did hurt a lot of people. To say I never did thus and so, it does not absolve me because that ripple effect is still in play, right? So for me to continue growing and becoming a better person today than I was yesterday and a better person tomorrow than I was today, I really needed to learn these healing steps. And this becomes a continual and lifelong process because as a human being, I will always make mistakes, right? I will always slip and fall somewhere along this journey of life because I'm not infallible. So these healing steps did not come overnight. Neither did my path of destruction and damage to myself and others occur overnight. So showing myself equal amounts of love, kindness, fairness, grace, and mercy that I would extend to others is really important. So to grow, I know it helps me tremendously to go back to basics. Looking up words I'm sure I know the meaning of already is one of the ways I accomplish this, or at least give it the old college try. So the betterment I set out to achieve can be attained. In relating to my love of genealogy, I think of it this way: I am, I'm sorry, right? My mom is, I apologize. My grandma is, I amends. So, what do I mean by that? And how did I make this correlation? So, I'm sorry is the first step in this process. So, being the baby of the group, the starting point, that's me. I apologize is filled with more knowledge and experience. And so that's my mom. And I amend is the most complete and comes because I've expressed and recognized and moved forward to the latter part of this phase. Even more experience and knowledge help me to truly understand why I'm sorry, right? Um, and why I apologize and feel that I should amend. So, this is my grandma, the matriarch of the family. The woman has forgotten more than I will ever learn in a lifetime. She carries herself with more grace, dignity, and humility in so many ways. But I can never achieve the I amend stage if my mother wasn't there to show me how to apologize and I'm sorry. And if my grandmother wasn't there to show my mother and me the I'm sorry, I apologize, I amend. We can't skip anyone in the family tree or our search to learn our lineage. Simply it won't be complete, right? So just because we don't maybe get along with someone, you can't just skip them. They're all part of the tree. So I do my trees differently. I'm just going to say this really quick. So it really depending on what kind of tree you're working with is to where you're thinking. I have, as you've learned, I talk with my hands, right? So I'm at the top here, my mom here, my grandma here. I could also be at the bottom, my mom here, my grandma here, and then of course reading left to right. Well, this way would be on the screen. So anyway, but it's all the same as long as the order is the same because all trees are different, but they all have uh the same meaning and the same end. Everything is just cohesive that way. So anyway, again, um, so recovery is about growing and learning and doing better, right? Love, forgiveness, fairness, and humility for all the links in the chain, not just some. And that includes ourselves. All of these and more are attainable if there's a solid plan of recovery and a true desire to stop drinking and stay sober. So, in starting the tree of my lineage, I started with me and worked my way backwards because I know the most about me. Then on to my parents, then my grandparents, and so on and so forth. So I start with the baby of the group, the youngest, the least experienced. Again, that would be me. We're gonna have some coffee right here because we're just diving in. Oh my gosh, fantastic. Okay, so I'm sorry. I have said this a million times and probably more over my 51 years on this earth. It is also one of the first lessons I was able to teach my children. This is a basis for an apology and amends. I'm sorry. Okay, so sorry. By definition, sorry is when someone feels sorrow, sympathy, or sadness for something, right? So sorry can also mean to express a regret or a need for penitence for some action, words, or slight, some sort of behavior, right? So to regret something is to be or feel a modicum of sorrow, sadness, dismay for a circumstance that is really beyond one's control. I'm sorry is the first step for while not everything falls into this category of being beyond one's control, it is used frequently and taught early because it is the most simplistic. So even if I have not yet accepted responsibility, I can still recognize a slight has been made and a course correction is necessary on some level. I'm sorry does come in several ways, though, as many of us learn in life. But to truly move forward, we must check ourselves and be truly honest. And the process, not necessarily harshly and brutally, but with full disclosure and fairness to all. And again, that includes ourselves, right? So we must honestly ask ourselves this question: are we truly sorry for the consternation we caused others? Or are we simply sorry we got caught? This is where the lesson of humility can arise. For me, being truly sorry is to understand that I have displayed behavior or spoken words that have truly affected someone else in a negative way. And yes, it is, it really is subjective. Perception is reality, right? It matters not so much that I think I have wronged someone, but that someone feels as though I have wronged them. I'm sorry says, I know I've done something wrong that has made someone else feel uncomfortable or slighted in some way and to any degree. Um, I'm sorry says, I know what I did to you to make you feel wrong. Being sorry also affords me the luxury to be selfish and focus on me. I need to change some behavior or approach when interacting with others. Being sorry allows me the opportunity to recognize and understand that I need to change something. This is the first level of humility, for if we cannot recognize the difference between right and wrong, we will never see in ourselves where we need to change. Letting go of our pride and our ego and putting down our arrogance is crucial to checking ourselves at the door, humbling ourselves enough to recognize we need to change something somewhere. Okay, I think we get it. Moving on. We're going to take a quick coffee break here, folks. Uh, Oh my gosh, delish. All right. So the next level, I apologize. The next step for growing. This is the actual moving on, recognizing some erroneous behavior on my part, saying it out loud, and accepting ownership of said behavior. I apologize says, I know what I have done to elicit this negative feeling or perception for someone else, and that I know why I made them feel this way. I apologize says, I know why my actions made you feel wronged. So I'm sorry is the what I did wrong, whether I want to admit it or not. An apology is knowing the why someone else perceives that a wrong on my part was attained, whether I agree or not. So I apologize teaches us that yes, we have erred. Yes, we recognize. It gives us a window to see into another. It shows us that not only have we erred intentionally or unintentionally, but we know why someone else perceives our behavior in a negative manner. Perception is reality and it is subjective. I apologize affords me the opportunity to modify my behaviors in such a way as to put others, someone else's needs, words, and considerations before my own, right? I'm sorry is about being selfish. It's about me. I apologize is about being selfless. It's about another. Now, although I'm sorry is selfish, it is a vital part of life and the equation. If we cannot recognize another pain or hurt, if we don't even, I mean, we can't recognize another pain or hurt if we don't even recognize our behavior could be what caused this pain or hurt. So once we learn the behaviors in ourselves, we can then move on and do our very best to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes and to begin to try and repair that which we have broken, right? But we cannot recognize we have caused an issue or reaction to an issue in a negative way for someone else until we first discover and recognize it in ourselves. So, going to the genealogical part, right? So, genealogically, my mom is the I apologize. She has the experience to teach me to learn how to become sorry. Yes, she taught me how to be selfish for the good of another by first teaching me right from wrong. As I grow, I take her lead and then I learn how to become selfless and how to be apologetic and recognize I have behaved poorly and another is slighted, and I must now do my very best to remedy or repair that situation, the one that I have created with my behaviors. So finally, we move on to the third part of this process on the road to making things right. And that we have completely upended. So now's a good time for a coffee break again. Okay, so enter my grandmother. She's the I amend. She is the goal which I aspire to, the epitome of grace, class, dignity, humility, and fairness. And I never would have had the privilege if she had not passed the same on to my mother, who could then lovingly pass it on to me. So the amends comes from the apology, and the apology comes from the I'm sorry. This is just as I came from my mother and she came from her mother, my grandmother, right? So an amends is defined as a compensation for a slight or wrong to another. It's the payment, right? Uh, and a compensation that is on an equivalent level to the slight. Again, more subjective evaluation. So to know and to show how to make an amends is to recognize I did something wrong. Then to know why someone else feels that way. And finally, to make the payment, to make the punishment, quote unquote, fit the crime, right? So to speak. Fair and just to all parties involved, including oneself, and making sure to make the penalty or the repayment enough or more to cover the cost of the results of our erroneous behavior, right? So I am, if you think about it, each generation has a story to tell, right? And an approach that worked for them. However, as with all things, synthesis occurs, right? So every generation has a way that worked for them based on the tools they had at their disposal at any given time in history. Equally and reactively, every passing generation expands on these tools, utilizing some of the older tools and some of the newer tools to help clear up the wreckage of the past. Thus, the process of change and innovation is, one could say, made seamless. For if one generation skips a generation, the story is incomplete, and therefore the blanks of that family tree are much harder to fill in. So here's my analogy for this. It worked for me. I like the analogy. So I hope this helps you to kind of see where I'm coming from, right? So if I get into a car wreck because someone else ran a red light, this has really happened to me, so I do speak from experience. First, the recognition that they ran the red light is established. So this is the I'm sorry. Okay. Next, the recognition that the other driver caused the damage to my car, usually immediately noticeable upon inspection of the vehicles at the collision, and then potentially to me, um, often not immediately recognizable and visible because, as an example, many times the damage to a person is often internal and so not noticeably visible, but does come in the form of things like soft tissue damage. It could happen, or arthritis and things like that. So the doctor inspects the person, right? The mechanic inspects the vehicle, and the insurance adjuster evaluates everything together to help arrive at a monetary compensation, while the police inspect the accident as a whole to arrive at the determination of how things occurred to know who is ultimately held responsible and accountable for said wreck, right? So it painted that picture. So the police then issue citations and tickets of, say, $500, right, for causing the wreck. Then the mechanic assesses the vehicle and determines that the damage will cost 4,500. So now we're up to 5,000, right, to repair. And the doctors evaluate, and medical bills could come in of 5,000, and they're charged for their services, right? The services rendered in assessing the level of physical and potentially emotional damage to the injured party. Now, the financial penalty to the at fault driver is established at a baseline at least $10,000, right? So 500, 4,500, and 5,000 together, all $10,000, right? So if whoever ran the red light only paid $8,000, this is simply not enough. The compensation on their part financially must be at least 10,000 in order to be fair and just, right? And this is strictly for the wrong to me. So let me elaborate for you, right? Remember that ripple effect I was talking about earlier? Well, the insurance company has to cover the cost of the damage for assuming the risk, the other driver, by underwriting and endorsing an insurance policy. When these costs cumulatively, um, from all those who are insured by said insurance companies have a deficit in the payment of the compensation for damages, the rates of the insurance company are often increased to the detriment of everyone insured by that company, whether they have been the cause of an accident or a recipient of any kind of compensation or not. So, this is also where a remedy becomes more defined, right? So, amends or payments for the at fault driver can include, but are not limited to, a citation or a ticket, right? Points against one's driver's license for the broken rules of the road, financial compensation to the injured party, increased insurance rates for everyone to cover the risk, potential court costs if it goes that far, and potential jail time if it is warranted. In any case, license can be suspended or something like that too, revoked. All of these together form the amends. Excuse me. So the amends. This part is my grandmother, the matriarch of the family, right? She sees beyond the obligatory, but very often the very insufficient. I'm sorry. She also sees further down the road that um, the often also insufficient, but much more sincere and genuine, I apologize, which is the starting point for the amends on an unselfish level. So she herself has likely, no doubt, been the beneficiary of someone else's poor driving judgment because even though she did not cause the wreck, her rates would raise too, along with everyone else insured by said insurance company over time for something she was not even a party to or present for. So grandma can have a perfectly clean driving record, but she's still required to pay for the raise in rates to cover the risks and expenses caused by other drivers. For this reason, the amends must fit the behavior. While grandma may not have been party to the driving infraction, and although her rates will raise like everyone else's who is insured, the insurance company does recognize that while rates went up, grandma had no part in the actual wreck or claim. And to offset this realization, can often do something like, say, a good driver discount or longevity in driving with no points or anything like that. So that is why an amends often takes time, something that cannot be escaped or discounted. One must understand first, they did something wrong. That's the I'm sorry. Second, no others were affected and why. That's the apology. And third, make an honest and thorough evaluation to repair the damages done. That's the amends. So, quickly back to the analogy. That would be why rates increase for everyone who's insured. All other ripple effects are still in play. Grandma and mom would know from their experience because they have themselves had to pay the penalty too. They have longer driving records, time wise, and more driving experience than I do. As a new driver, when I was a teen, I didn't fully understand what it meant for my parents to assume the risk of having a teenage, inexperienced driver added to their insurance policy, thereby increasing the rates because the insurance company also assumes the risk in case I caused a wreck. But my mom and grandma would know this. Grandma would have assumed the risk for my mom, and my mom assumed the risk for me. It was not until I had children of my own in turn that I assumed the risk for them, that I could truly understand the cost. I could then see the full evolution, something only time can show because each generation had to wait until the younger generation became old enough to test for and legally obtain a driver's license, right? So then, as time passed on, all of these, um, if there are no infractions, standardly, the insurance rates of the policy that which are usually reviewed every 6 months Each 6-month period, the cost of the policy generally decreases until the children eventually get old enough to get their own policy. Time takes time. I know this was kind of lengthy, but I will close with this. It takes a combination of traits and actions and elements to right a wrong. It takes humility, grace, decency, responsibility, and justice to accept with responsibility that I broke something. Now, what do I do? What do I do to fix it? What do I have to do? The wreckage of the past was most certainly not all accrued in one night. So the repair is not going to happen in one night either. Having people by us, though, who have, as we say in my family, been there, done that, and have the t-shirts to prove it, really is so very helpful. If we are willing to humble ourselves and ask for and accept the help of others and truly and genuinely accept responsibility for our part in the destruction of our past, we will find we do not have to reinvent the wheel for our own journey through the whole amends and apology process, right? We can count on those who have come before us to mercifully show us grace and kindness by sharing with us and showing us what we need to do to repair the damage left in our wake throughout our active addiction and our road to recovery and our journey through our sobriety. Over the final one here is, once we're clear headed and coherent enough to have that conversation with the facts, it's going to be a lot easier. So that, again, time takes time. This is why making things right are frequently done successfully in this order. So those who came before us can light the way by their experience and example, making the road easier to navigate as we continue on in our recovery and sobriety, increasing our own level of knowledge, experience, and self confidence so that hopefully we get the opportunity and the privilege to do the same for subsequent generations. So, with that, I'm going to say thank you guys so much for tuning in and sticking around. So, like and subscribe, whatever it is that you do for that. And I hope to see you again soon. Talk to you guys later. Bye.